Hello everybody, Steve here once again from CELTAhelper.com. This time I wanted to share some tips about the part-time CELTA course because I get many people asking me about this as it seems to be growing in popularity as more and more people know about the option. And also it's obviously all CELTAs are difficult, but the part-time has a different atmosphere and a different structure, if you like, to the full-time course. So there's lots of other elements that you're going to need to consider if you are thinking of taking the part-time course. So I've listed a couple of main points to think about that hopefully will help to clarify things for you to decide whether the part-time is right and also to make the right choices as you go through with the part-time course as well. So let's get stuck in then. The first thing I would say, and this is assuming that perhaps you're just coming into part-time study after maybe not studying for a while, or perhaps you're coming off the back of a university degree but you're going to be working a job. Just remember that you need to get into study mode at times that you would normally be relaxing. Now I say this as someone who is doing a part-time master's on top of my teaching job. So I'm working on an MSc at the moment and I'm in year 3 of 3. Cannot wait to finish, but that's another story. And what you have to remember is, let's say you come home from work or your studies or whatever you're doing that is keeping you from doing the full-time course, then you've got to get into study mode again. So try to identify those times in the day that you think are going to be best for you. When I started the masters, I really thought, it'll be fine. I'll just do 2 hours every night in the evenings on the weekdays, and then I won't have to work on the weekends. No, really didn't happen like that. For me personally, I find it much easier to take a bit more relaxing time during the week and then work almost all day on Saturday and maybe a day or half a day on Sunday. Even though that sounds like, oh my God, it's taking up all your weekend, I'm so much more productive that I got the work done faster. The other way, I was so tired and getting really stressed about it that I found it really didn't help me. However, you might be different. You might want to do it before you go to work or before you do anything else in the day, early morning. That could work for you. So just try to identify that schedule that's going to work for you before you start the course. So the next thing then is to think about preparation time before starting the course. Now it's really good to give yourself time to get to know the basics, the syllabus, the fundamentals of language teaching and grammar, and also about how the assignments work. And I've got some articles on that on the site which you can check out. And really you need a little bit of time, and this comes into the next point, you don't want too much. So you want to have that knowledge to help you prepare and build that confidence. So you really shouldn't just rush into the next available course. Think about how much you already know. Maybe you're coming in with some teaching experience, so that might change things a little bit, or even better, English language teaching experience or just language teaching experience. But just think, you probably want to give yourself enough time to absorb some information and prepare properly. So leading on from that, as I mentioned, the next point then is choosing the course with the right start date for you. Now I've heard about students who try to book onto a course and then a couple of weeks before they had an email saying, no, we can't do it now. You'll have to wait another 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. Maybe it wasn't that extreme, but they definitely had to wait 6 months, a couple of them, because the courses, they could only do part-time in one area, in their area, and they got delayed. And when your part-time course gets delayed, that's several months, it's not like a CELTA full-time, obviously, it's much longer. So they don't come around that often. However, you don't really want to be waiting too much, because I said about preparation time, if you're planning to take the course, and I spoke to one lady who was started preparing 1 year in advance, then maybe that can actually add to the anxiety and the stress and the build up, and you can actually overload yourself with information. Because what I would say is you don't really want to take on too much information beforehand, because you will get the information on the course and it's very hard to really retain this information in a valuable way if you're not using it and applying it. That's one of the great things about the CELTA, is that you get the information and you're expected to apply it immediately, which is great. It's a really hard thing to do, but for me, there's no better way of learning than through doing. So learn by doing, experiential learning, whatever you want to call it. It's fantastic. But if you are trying to prepare everything and taking a very long time over it, chances are you might forget stuff, you might overload, and you might actually peak in your learning or lose interest by the time it actually comes to the course. So try to think about that as well. The next point then would be also to think about location. Obviously you've thought about location, but what I mean by that is the logistics of, let's say, when you have to do your observed teaching practice, maybe midweek on an evening, how far do you have to go? How much stress is that going to add to your day or your routine? How far do you have to travel regularly to do this? Or, is it going to be an easy place for you to get to? Now, I'm sure you've thought about this, but on top of all the other things, all the workload and all these other aspects, a commute is really not something you want, or a long commute is not something you want to add on top of all of these. So try to think about it. Location is so important for these. Obviously, some of you are tied because there aren't many CELTA centers, but just remember that can really add an extra level of intensity to the course. So try to think about that. I do know some people, and maybe this isn't for you, but they used up much of their annual leave to take the CELTA course, and so they got around it that way and managed to do a full-time course. So perhaps that could work, or even you could take strategic annual leave to allow yourself the time to do the work on the course. But hopefully those tips then have helped you to think about different aspects of the part-time course. I'm sure it's going to be beneficial and you're going to enjoy it. And yeah, just go for it and have fun with it. And leave me any questions about part-time study or about whatever you want in the comments on the blog post, or at Stephen Beale on Twitter, or Stephen@CELTAhelper.com, and that's STEPHEN. So, hope that was useful for you. Thanks for listening and reading, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye. Bye.